masses, knees grinding in dust, the end will be destiny. Since the old Lapith women who held the corners, a lamenting chorus to the tragedy, have been renewed at a later date, we draw from the other pediment this river god, who might almost be the watchman, crouched like a dog on the roof of the Atridae, under the destiny of the wheeling stars, looking for the beacon that should herald joy. Now let there be redemption from distress, the flare burning from the blackness in good augury, though what it heralds is the death of Agamemnon. The habitual warning ignored, let no lust seize on these men to violate what they must not. As we move inward, the curse rings atonement from those high hearts that drive to evil. And where is the outlet from this spider's web, this web of death, fenced in these fatal nets, the nets of ruin fence high beyond our leaping? All Agamemnon. Good and bad are caught in the same destiny. Who shall claim he was born clear of the dark angel? I struck him twice. In two great cries of agony he buckled at the knees and fell. And the chorus, the bitter glory of a doom that shall never be done with, and all through Zeus, what here is without God's blessing? Though grace comes somehow violent, Cassandra, she who swan-like cried aloud her lyric mortal lamentation out, alas for the wretchedness of my ill-starred life, pain flooding the song of sorrow. Violence in the pediment climaxes in the biting group to the right, the boy murder to the left, and in Aeschylus, a house God hates, the shambles for men's butchery, the dripping floor. The drops come thicker, still fate grinds on yet more stones the blade for more acts of terror. The ghastly food whose curse works now before your eyes. Who shall tear the curse from their blood? The seed is stiffened to ruin, all Agamemnon. Yet as we move toward center, the figures and faces of struggle and revenge take on choral dignity. Yet from such as this the god, if he will, can work out strains that are fairer. Even the centaurs, as if they too were justified. War strength shall collide with war strength, right with right. The cure begins to show through the fierce wreck and bloodshed, all coephory. In that middle play, the libation-bearers, Orestes and Electra, hear me earth, hear me grandeurs of darkness, assume the beast to serve the oracle. For we are bloody like the wolf, Apollo also called Lycian, the wolf god, and savage born from the savage mother. The ultimate outrage, the mother murder, becomes for the chorus temperate things done in the house, with a great cry of father, when she cries child, go on through with the innocent murder. Already we are under another sway, though for Orestes pain must flower. I grieve for the thing done, the death and all our race. My victory is soiled and has no pride. As the Furies come, on this house the third storm has broken. Where shall the fury of fate be stilled to sleep, be done with, coephory? Only the divine can rule the Furies. Do good, receive good, and be honored as the good are honored, Eumenides. Put to sleep the bitter strength in the black wave, and live with me and share my pride of worship. Thus in the temple, as in the trilogy, the power that holds the sky's majesty wins our veneration. So far, the Promethean daring of Athens and Greece seems to have operated within the containment of tradition and under the guidance of a god, as Athena here helps Hercules hold up the sky, while Atlas brings the apples of the Hesperides. Even Empedocles, though Arnold thought he began the dialogue of the mind with itself, seems in his fragments still carried on the sacred wave. Twofold is the coming into being, twofold the passing away of perishable things. For combining both begets and destroys, and what was combined is itself scattered, being now united by love into one, now each borne apart by the hatred engendered of strife. But when thought in Protagoras had made man the measure of all things, and in Democritus had left only atoms and the void, when Gorgias turned sophism into doubt, the criterion of truth is destroyed. There is no criterion, either of being or of the possibility of its being known or communicated to others. The method of Greek inquiry, as in Aristophanes' Clouds, has undercut the divine sanctions on which the laws of the state and their veneration rested. When does sophistic question strike at the confidence of Aeschylus and Olympia? I remember a lecture by Blankenhagen on the Parthenon, supreme achievement of Pericles and Phidias, finished a few years before the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War. He treated it, as some do Oedipus, as a jibe at cruel gods. The metopes, seen here at the top, were of battle on all sides. Lapiths against centaurs, Theseus against Amazons, Trojans against Greeks, giants against gods. After the pediment of Olympia, these conflicts seem as stripped as the brunt of Democritus' atoms. The great east pediment, with its richly robed figures, where the horse-drawn chariot of Selene sinks to the north, and that of Apollo rises to the south, must present the central theme of Aeschylus, the coming of the new order of Athena and Apollo. Is it, as in Aeschylus, a theodicy? The frieze which runs around the whole temple under the porch of columns shows the preparations for the Pan-Athenian procession, with the procession itself to the sacrifice. It ends on the east with the gods, who talk among themselves, unconcerned in the detachment Protagoras had confessed of them, and been banished by the Athenians, though a friend of Pericles. As to the gods, I have no means of knowing either that they exist or that they do not exist, for many are the obstacles that impede knowledge, both the obscurity of the question and the shortness of human life. Especially Athena, she had no altar in the Parthenon, turns her back to the offering. The gold and ivory Athena from the sanctuary is known only in tawdry copies, but she was shown in her aspect of terror, on her shield the battle with the Amazons, on her shoes with the centaurs, while on the pedestal the story of Pandora replaced the other battles, the cruelty of the gods in preparing evil for man. Is the usual view of the temple merely the vulgar view? Was the secret message of Pericles and Phidias the indifference of the gods and the futility of sacrifice? So far Blankenhagen as sophistic advocate, of whom the work asks the question, if in futility, why so harmonious, so rapturous a celebration? We have forgotten the paradox of tragedy itself. Hesiod told the story of Pandora as a case of divine malice. Hesiod, from the Greek age of belief. I will give men an evil thing, in which they may embrace their own destruction. The force of irresponsible gods, who have still to be worshipped, is the dark wisdom of ritual. Of course, as reason penetrates that matter, there will come a breaking point when the Gordian knot of stark faith cleaves, and one is left with Sophoclean vindication, his destiny has found a perfect end, or Euripidean doubt, the gods intended nothing but my woes and hate to Troy. Both stand with the Parthenon at a peak of perfection. A kind of pathos and backward-looking attends any such cadence, where instinctive action melts into the ripeness of thought. On such a knife-edge of tragic and skeptical possibility, it is not easy to say which has been chosen. Not even the contrast of Sophocles and Euripides is as clear as style history makes it. But what speaks in the Parthenon is less hidden message than manifest art, and in that, as in the Oedipus Rex and Coloneus, the sacred has been made human. In the beauty of ritual, the paradox of God and man rises to a Dionysiac crest. With the Peloponnesian War, the sequence of aspiration, hubris, fate, and ruin spreads from myth and drama into history. No author has seen the tragedy he lived through with such devastating clarity as Thucydides. In Pericles' funeral oration, from the first year of the war, we take the wings of man in his pride. We are the school of Hellas. The wonder of present and future shall be ours. We have forced sea and land to be the highway of our daring. Realize the power of Athens. Feed your eyes upon her, till love of her fills your hearts. And when all this greatness shall break upon you, remember honor in action. The Rhiace bronzes, keen as the reported Phidian warriors, Delphic commemorators of Marathon, are the greatest Greek discovery since the Athenian Zeus Poseidon came from the sea. How they hold the divide between that funeral paean and the disaster oration, in which, after the defeats of the second year of the war and the outbreak of the plague, B.C. 430, Pericles bared the expediency of the vision. What you hold is, to speak somewhat plainly, a tyranny. To take it, perhaps, was wrong, but to let it go is unsafe. In the daring of Athenian mind, the fall is foreseen and celebrated. Even if now, in obedience to the general law of decay, we should ever be forced to yield, still it will be remembered, a city unrivaled by any other. War, the rough master, having carried off Pericles and left self-seeking factions, the followers of Phidias, exploiting the techniques of the Parthenon, move through this Albani battle relief toward whatever style of crisis the late-century Phigalian frieze exhibits. The ideal falls away from such moral and political turmoil as Thucydides describes, 427 B.C., the revolution in Corcyra. And perhaps here we are closer to the frenzy of some Euripides. Words had to change their ordinary meaning and take that which was now given them. Reckless audacity came to be considered the courage of a loyal ally. Prudent hesitation, specious cowardice. Frantic violence became the attribute of manliness. Cautious plotting, a justifiable means of self-defense. The advocate of extreme measures was always trustworthy, his opponent a man to be suspected. Meanwhile, the moderate part of the citizens perished. The ancient simplicity into which honor so largely entered was laughed down and disappeared, and society became divided into camps in which no man trusted his fellow. It was the license sophism had already bred, making the worse appear the better cause. Thrasymachus, justice is the interest of the stronger, which in 416, a time of truce, infects Athenian policy in the outrage against Milos. We shall not trouble you with specious pretenses, since you know as well as we do that the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. That was the hubris which led the next year to the madness of the Sicilian campaign. How great the ambition which overreached itself! Alcibiades, most brilliant and corrupt of Socrates' admirers, betrayed to the Spartans. We sailed to Sicily, first to conquer, if possible, the Siciliots, and after them the Italiots also, and finally to assail the empire and city of Carthage. Then we were to attack Peloponnese, and so rule the whole of the Hellenic name. We have leapt from the Phigalian frieze to that of Halicarnassus, its 350 consequent, in the orgiastic manner of Scopas. But Alcibiades, too, had leapt ahead, launched